Welcome to the Adventure Brief, a podcast designed to give you insight into the startup ecosystem. It is brought to you by Edventure, the UK's first student-led venture builder and accelerator, bringing universities' most talented people and ideas together. On this podcast, we speak with established founders, VCs, and Adventure's most successful participants to hear about their journeys and experiences. To find out more about Adventure, visit our website at adventure.vc.
All right, welcome to another episode of the Adventure Brief. We have today here Louise and also Taylor from Leg Up Network and Tap Intuit, respectively. We're very happy to have you here today, and I'm super excited to chat to you more about your ventures.
So my name's Taylor. I'm a 20-year-old entrepreneur and a full-time student, so it's a little bit hard of a balance right now. And my whole goal and mission with Tap Intuit is to close this silent financial literacy gap. I think that we are in literally almost a pandemic, a silent pandemic, because we're taught growing up that we're not supposed to talk about money, politics, and religion. But in order to learn, we have to at least question, right? And so for me, asking all those questions about money at a young age is vital and crucial to getting rid of all these student loans that so many of us live in, or credit card debt and all of that.
What about Louise? Do you want to get a bit into Leg Up?
Yeah, so I'm Louise. I'm founder CEO of Leg Up Network, which is it's literally only started a few months ago. More so as an initiative, but now as a business, kind of working to increase access to the professional world for students who are from underprivileged backgrounds. So students who don't have like that family or potentially like private school networks that kind of gets them even into universities, into work placements that so many people rely on. And so, yeah, I work in marketing. I have like freelance marketing contracts as well. And I'm also a full-time uni student. So yeah, it's a lot, but it's cool.
So what motivated you guys to start these ventures at such a young age?
I would have to say that when I made the transition going from pre-med to finance, one of the first classes that I went to was monetary and fiscal policy. And when you think of finance, you just automatically think of like basic personal finance, not a lot of technical, at least for me, from my understanding when I was growing up. And so even now to this day, I'm a senior. I finish in like 2.5 weeks, and not once have they brought up credit score. Not once have they brought up how to simply start budgeting for retirement and how it's so important to start at such a young age with compound interest. And that's where all of this sparked for me, because everyone knows in like the finance realm, you start younger, the better you are off. Like that is how you can literally retire a millionaire, just by investing $100 a week or $25 a week, whatever you have. It's so much better to invest now than to invest when you're late 20s, early 30s, and then getting even further on to closer near retirement.
No, I completely feel that actually, because like, as you were saying, like uni barely teaches you these things. Like I'm someone who does international relations. If you don't if you don't take political economy or like just finance related subjects, you're never going to get exposure to it. And so I think that that's so great that you kind of got into it so early and just kind of self-educated yourself. Yeah. Louise, do you want to tell us a bit about your experience?
So personally, it just came from a place where I was really upset and just disheartened by the number of people that I knew, and people that I've grown up with who, like from less supported backgrounds, that they were first people to see their internship placements and their grad schemes cancelled when COVID hit. Whereas more privileged people I knew who had secured places through like kind of nepotism, they weren't affected. And I just basically was inspired to create an initiative that exclusively helped students and like recent grads that are underprivileged get that experience and be able to get their foot through the door at like in like a range of industries. So it started in marketing and business, because that's kind of where my personal connections were. So yeah, it started off as a way that I could help. But so I set up like a collaborative internship with some really cool brands like Reach PLC, which is in the UK, it's the nation's biggest newspaper publisher. So like titles like the Daily Mail, Mail Online, The Telegraph, they all have articles that are written through Reach PLC. And then so we also have Schema, which it's the co-founder of Twitter-backed new startup in the UK, and it's essentially they're developing a marketing tool. And we also have Untapped Digital, which is kind of, in London, it's sort of seen as like the biggest sort of marketing agency. And so that was amazing to be able to set up. But then the demand that it was met with and the reception that it got, even from just like, even in my own echo chambers online, it was so extensive that it's just quickly kind of scaled up into a fully fledged business, which actually launches in January. So yeah.
Yeah, no, that sounds so amazing. And I completely agree with the like not knowing where to even apply for and not knowing like what path to take, because like especially if you come from a disadvantaged background, you don't have that exposure to these things. And like it's good to have such a venture out there that targets low income groups and just seems like a really great initiative. Just talking about teams and everything, how many people do you guys have on your teams to like get the venture going? And like also, how are you guys balancing all of this with your university work, because that seems like a lot. So like how many people do you guys have on the teams, and just tell us a bit more about that.
Louise, I'll let you take this one first.
Okay, so at the moment we've started with just 5 people, and so they're people who have been with me from the very start of like getting this off the ground. But recently, in the last couple of weeks, we've just finished hiring over 100 brand ambassadors situated in different universities across the UK, who will start with us in January in paid positions, just to help us like increase brand awareness, get the word out. And yeah, so that's exciting. And then I guess with uni, with it all being online, I do genuinely forget that I go, like I submit my assignments, I get by on the grades, and I'm still achieving the same amount as I would. But I feel that just in like doing this for the last few months, I have learned so much more, just so much more than I ever have in like 2 years at university so far. Like, and I don't know if that's just the subject I chose. Like, I think we choose our subjects somewhat too young. So I went in on a history and Spanish degree, and I love history and Spanish. I love learning a new language, but I also feel like, given how much I've learned just kind of doing this for the last few months, it's definitely not the best investment of time and money that you could make as a young person and get yourself into all of that debt. When actually, if I wanted to learn Spanish, I could also spend that money and go and live somewhere Spanish speaking. So yeah, I guess I kind of see Leg Up as my full-time sort of job, and then universities on the side, to be completely honest. But yeah.
So you would kind of say that like the pandemic has actually helped you, because it has made like, because everything is online, you don't actually have to go to classes, and so it's kind of given you more time into your venture as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've still been into London, like Central, a few times, but just like to see friends. Like, it's not really been uni related anymore because we're literally not allowed on our campus.
Yeah.
They're just like, no, it's not happening, which completely understand. But yeah, I think it's also just been like, it's been tough. Like, I think at the start of the pandemic, it just kind of felt so demotivating because at the time I had like a number of marketing contracts going, and it was just kind of like all I was doing was that, and then just leaving my house for like a daily walk. So I think it kind of took all of that, and then I started seeing how it was impacting everyone else. It took a good couple months to be able to then create something productive out of it personally. But since then, it's been a really good process.
Okay, that sounds amazing. What about you, Taylor? Like, how is all of that? Tell us a bit more, because you're in the US as well, right?
Yes. So I'm basically I agree 100% everything with Louise has said, like literally the same exact boat. Kind of pushed school to the side a little bit more and fully focused on business. So I actually started in early 2019 as a blog that really started growing around my community. Then I went on social media, happened to go viral, and then it kind of just changed and grew the business, where I was able to meet Mara, who's leading the UK branch that we're opening, along with Shannon and everybody else at the team of Edinburgh. But in terms of COVID, that has increased, I think, at least my team's work efforts. Like prior to, I was actually going to transfer to a different school that had online classes because I really needed online classes with the amount of traveling that I was doing during that time. With just, I had to commute going to school. It was a pain to find a parking, like all those things I had to consider took a lot of time. And so the pandemic, I think really it helped a lot of people. Working remotely is something that is I don't think we're ever going to like really change too much besides having a headquarters at some point and just one, that's it. But overall, it's been great experience and really, really growing. And like I said, 2 more weeks left. Louise, I don't know how much time you have left, but
Yeah, no, our year. Wait, so isn't yours also like September to May or no?
yes. So I actually took school fall, winter, spring, summer, fall, winter, spring, summer, and that's how I was able to complete a bachelor's in about 2.5 years instead of 4.
Oh,
So it's been literally a sprint to get to get school done so I can focus 110%
okay.
on the
Yep.
business.
Yeah, that makes sense. But I was gonna also ask, like, how many people do you have in your team then to like just make this going and successful and everything?
Yeah, so I would say overall probably 15, including the UK branch. They're adding people too. They just added 2 more awesome people as well.
So it's been going very well for both of you in that case because it seems like social media is really helping. And like, even though we're in a pandemic, like having brand ambassadors all over campuses, it really helps because then people know more about it and everything. So, tell us a bit more about like your team dynamic. Like, what is it like working with like, because it's during a pandemic as well, everything is online, right? So, how is it like coordinating things and like has it been more difficult or has it been easier? Like,
So personally, for like as a team, like the team that I've started with are people that I knew and trusted, because they were the very first people that I told about it, and because it just kind of started as like this initiative of creating an internship. It was just kind of like, oh, I really like this idea. Like, how can I get involved? How can I help you? How can I help you achieve this? And so, but I guess like as it's grown, like obviously Zoom and like Google Meet and all of that has been absolutely essential. But we all just kind of, especially because we're in such a position, like we're in such like a sort of developmental phase at the moment. Like we've got most of it set for January now, but just like because we've kind of created everything from scratch like in just since September, we've all just been pitching in like different ideas and then kind of look at like where certain ideas that we have intersect and how we can create something really impactful whilst also creating a sustainable business model. Because I think with an initiative like this, we also are very aware, like we're all students. We don't have those like financial resources to like invest in our own businesses when it's the first time we've done it from scratch. And so we're kind of looking at ways that it can stay an initiative that's really centered around access, but how do we get funding for that? How do we create something that can grow, and how can we increase that access over time? And so, yeah, we just pitch in ideas all the time. We rarely go, I think what's quite interesting is like with the initial ideas that we have, but
yeah.
it's more so that they act as kind of springboards for something that's way more developed. And in this way, like the dynamic kind of works so that we get just kind of inspired by each other, I guess.
Yeah, and it grows.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah, because like you have like one initial thought and then it kind of grows into something bigger and sounds like a great, thing you guys have going on. But what about you, Taylor?
Yeah, so we use Slack as our main form of communication for our internal team for the US. And then we use Notion for our entire project management system that houses the UK branch, the further branches. And so we're able to start off, which I highly recommend, Luis, if you're not already using, go on to Notion. It is like Google Drive. No, Notion. Oh my goodness, it is such a lifesaver. And overall, like with those two platforms, it's been really, really convenient and efficient to help with that growth. Instilling these kind of forms of communication early on helps with the growth in future ambassador programs that you may be doing or just onboarding other team members. And lastly, we use Workplace, which Edventure actually uses for communication between the college ambassadors and branches. It's going to be in the future when we have like 100 plus or so branches. Everybody can communicate with one another. The team leaders from each branch can easily communicate with one another. You can post events on there. They have rooms where you don't even need to host like a Zoom meeting per se. You just open up a room really quick and it's right there. It's great.
Yeah, no, 100%. We've also been like using Workplace. So like
Mhm.
our management team, Ragnar, he just calls and then we'll just be getting random calls and be like, okay, we're supposed to be doing this right now. So I 100% relate with that. It's made like Notion as well. It's just made life so much easier generally. But so we kind of talked about outreach just a little earlier, but like, can you guys tell us more specifically, like how large is your outreach and like how do you guys wish to like market your ventures more in the future and like what are your goals and like how big do you guys want to make your ventures, kind of like that?
Yeah, for sure. I'll start off with this one. So outreach is pretty gigantic with social media. Just on Pinterest alone, we have millions of views per month to generate that brand awareness. And then with TikTok, I'm pulling in like 25 million to 30 million views per 28 days. The numbers are astrological, which just goes to show that it's not just something in the United States. It's this whole financial literacy pandemic, what I like to call it, is all over. I'm sure everyone has experienced some form or question about money and what to do with it.
Yeah, no, 100%. And it seems like you're really utilizing these Gen Z platforms like
That's
Instagram,
what I
TikTok.
said.
Yeah, no, because like so wait, when did you start your venture then? And like how fast did it go viral? Because you mentioned it was only like within a few months.
Yeah. So the blog was in early 2019. This was, of course, just around my community. I wasn't on social media back then. I started TikTok December 2019, January 2020, and like my 10th video in went viral. So from there, I have about 700,000 followers on TikTok now, and everything else. Pinterest, we just started a few months ago from a TikTok trend that we saw. Like, if you guys, small businesses, aren't already on Pinterest, highly recommend.
No, I
And
love Pinterest. I genuinely like you just board so many ideas and then you just like everything just you go on a spiral. Like you look at one thing and then it just keeps adding and then it goes. Yeah, I love Pinterest.
yeah, so it's been, I would say overall, like this whole entire idea from ideation to where we are now, probably less than 2 years from starting off that blog just in my community to where we're at now.
Yeah, fair. Seems like it's doing amazing. And like it just goes to show that like obviously you're not gonna become successful overnight, but like social media really, really helps with that. But what about you, Louise? I almost called you Taylor just there, but yeah, Louise.
That's like super impressive what you guys have done, and I definitely relate to like the financial literacy aspect. It actually made me remember, so like when I started uni, when I was like almost 2 years ago, I used my savings to pay for my student loan, and I was really proud of myself, and I went down and told my parents, and they were like, you did what? You did what with your savings? And like, so I didn't have to take out a loan that year, and they were like, that's the worst financial decision you could have possibly made. But like for me, because like at the time I had no concept of like finance, and
Yeah.
so for me, like I would have, like, if that had been around then, I think that would have massively helped me just having like that financial literacy. And yeah, I guess like social media is so important, and it's something that we haven't actually tapped into that much yet, because what started as an initiative is now kind of turning into a business, and it's something that we're working on the strategy for at the moment. So we've brought on a social media intern, and we're working really hard on like that launch strategy, and it's something that we really want to kind of get into January onwards.
Yeah,
But I
that
guess,
makes sense.
yeah, in terms of outreach though, in general, like considering that it kind of just started as like just a thing is the best way to describe it, and we haven't launched, and there's never been any like launch, there's kind of, I've been personally shocked by the outreach that like we've managed to achieve, because like on my LinkedIn, for example, I get about 500,000 views per month, and that's just crazy because I post weekly. Like again, it's not something I've even tapped into that much.
Yeah,
And
you
like,
you mentioned that like one of your LinkedIn posts also went viral, and that's how this
yeah,
even the idea took off,
it's
right?
how Shannon found us. That's like how she reached out, and she was like, look, I do all of these businesses, I want you to partner with this one, this one, this one. And like, I love LinkedIn, it's such a good platform, and I used to neglect it so much. So yeah, and then also like on our website, so our website, for example, does not reflect what we're going to be doing January onwards in any shape or form,
Yeah.
but we still get we get upwards of about 5 inquiries a day from businesses looking to partner with us because they've heard it through LinkedIn that we're launching something in January, and they're like, look, we've heard this through word of mouth, we really want to talk to you about what we can do together. And like, obviously you don't say yes to a lot of them because they aren't technically, like, they aren't always viable, but just like that interest is such an incredible thing to be getting.
In terms of like the future, let's say, so in 5 years, where do you guys see your ventures, and like how do you wish to like, what do you wish to improve in order to get to that goal?
Definitely. So global impact, I think, is something that we're really taking on. Like, for example, starting off with that UK branch, hopefully we'll have one in India, we'll have one in China eventually, you know, one everywhere, so we can literally make this whole thing a global impact movement. And
Yeah.
so five year outlook is actually bringing Tap Intuit into a mobile application. Our generation, just from looking at our data, 80% of our users are on mobile, 20% are on web. And so we're really hitting a downfall right now in that we don't have a mobile application. That's something for 2021 that I'm actually doing fundraising for currently to, you know, start working on that development team and getting there into the mobile application. Because I'm sure you guys too. How many like of you guys use, for the listeners, using apps or actually like searching something on the web? It's just so much more easier when you have an app. You automatically click it. You can get push notifications, which are like a life savior when you need something like really important. So
Yeah,
that's
100%. It keeps you in the loop as well, because like for someone like me, like workplace always has messages incoming, and like I'm someone, I try to like, you know, prioritize my time for work and then like space it all out, but then sometimes things just need attention straight away, and I think that's so much easier when you have an app on your phone, you know. So yeah, I think that's a good, you know, goal. But what about you, Louise?
So 5 years from now, because of like sort of like the business plan that we've developed, we kind of want to just be recognized as a platform that stands for access, diversity, and inclusivity, far, far beyond what is passed off as like diversity and inclusivity policies by big organizations at the moment. Because if you actually look into what they're doing, it's very superficial. And what we're trying to create is something that actually creates access for people and actually helps with like, I love the claps. So like actually creates like proper access and invests in like the long-term careers of like interns and their future beyond the scope of what a company provides as like a 2-week internship, a 4-week internship. And so, and then on the flip side, I want students and recent grads to have confidence that if they come to us, we can really help them. The cost won't be passed on to them for like the underprivileged students that we take on through the businesses that sponsor us. And I kind of just want businesses in the UK and internationally as well, just to be proud to partner with us and kind of have Leg Up Network as a buzzword for something that actually creates access. And yeah.
Yeah, I just had a quick question. So, because it is for underprivileged kids and like low income groups, so you guys aren't going to be charging a fee like to have them participate in like the Leg Up network, or like, is it, you mentioned it's going to be sponsored, right?
Yeah, so the way it's going at the moment, so it will never be passed on to underprivileged students. The cost of it is absorbed by businesses, but then we're also opening up some of the more popular services that we get daily emails in going like, oh, can you help me with this? I'll pay you so much, from like rich students who know they don't qualify. We're also opening that up as kind of like a store, if that makes sense, online as well. So that all students can access it, but it will only be underprivileged students and students who haven't had that support that can then kind of get into the flip side, which is launching in January, and that cost won't be passed on to them.
So how would you verify that though? Like, how would you know like what income group they're coming from, and like all of those details basically? How would you cross check that?
So if you look at like the recruitment processes of like, you know, like vacation schemes that like everyone applies for every year and it's like a really coveted place. So what they do, they kind of do like sort of diversity and inclusion monitoring, and we would have a similar process, but because we'd be sponsored by them, they'd be doing it and then they'd be giving us the interns who
Yeah.
we recruit who are from underprivileged backgrounds. So it kind of just creates a greater social responsibility for these businesses to be doing more for the students who haven't had that support network that so many others have had their entire lives.
Yeah, no, 100%. It seems like such a great initiative, both of you. Like,
Yeah.
and you guys are so tremendous to be like doing this at such a young age as well, especially juggling uni and everything. Like, I think I'm doing too much and I'm not really doing that much, so it's pretty amazing. But Shannon, did you have some questions or?
Yeah, definitely. Like, I actually have a lot of questions for the both of you. What you're doing, first of all, for Louise, what you're doing is like very much in line with what 93% Club is doing. And I think they established their presence, especially I think during the pandemic over summer. And now they have like branches all over the different universities in the UK. So for people who don't know what the 93% Club is, it is a club, like university society that tries to bridge the gap between, like public school, like state school kids who go to university and the opportunities that they are able to access within university and beyond, or that kind of like that gap that like state school kids don't really, they're not like, how like a lot of private school kids, it's a lot easier for them to get their foot into the door for a lot of opportunities. So it's trying to like bridge that gap. Now, Louise, like what you're doing, I feel like it's very, very much in line with, 93% Club. Are you kind of like doing any collaborations with them, or like because I feel like that would also be very, very helpful.
Yeah, so we've got like our overall goals are very similar, but I think the ways we're going about them and like kind of like the specific areas that we're targeting are very different, which actually makes the collaboration so useful. And so we've got someone who works with the 93% Club coming on board in January with us. So that's exciting, but it's not with them directly.
Cool, very nice. And did you ever think about like maybe like in a way Leg Up Network is it's like a self-sustaining business model of 93% Club, or would you say that it's kind of like that, or it's not?
No, they're very, very different. It will kind of become, I think, more clear in January when like people can see the direction we're going in more clearly. And like as the stuff I've kind of told you, I just don't want to put it out into the public realm yet. But like I would say very similar goals in terms of like creating real social impact, but very different ways of executing it, and very different kind of I'd say like 5-year goals are very different as well.
Yeah, definitely. I guess like everyone will have to like hold on and like tune in to see what products that will come out in January. I'm personally very, very excited for it. Looking forward to see, like what you'll bring to the table, and on also the impact that, like the beneficiaries would be able to receive as well. In terms of like impact, do you kind of like have a rough estimate of like how many people you're reaching?
So in terms of our outreach, we've got thousands already, but I think our impact is gonna, hopefully, we're putting a lot of things in place at the moment to just multiply that from January. And so because even at the moment, like I'm all about getting out of echo chambers. So like even when you go viral somewhere, you're still somewhat within an echo chamber. And so like I think the best way to break out of that is to reach out to other people who are in completely different walks of life and get them on board. And so that's kind of like, I think brand ambassadors, when you pick the right ones, it's so beneficial, because it's just people that like you don't personally know, but have so much in common with you, have similar work ethics. And so, yeah.
One of the reasons why I think TikTok has done so well, on top of all of what Shannon said, but it isn't it literally an emotional roller coaster. When you first open the app, the video, the sound turns on. It's not like any other thing where you have to turn on the sound. For Reels, you have to turn on the sound. For any IGTV, you have to turn on the sound. But with TikTok, right when you open it up, it's like, whoa, I'm already in this all together. Like I can see somebody crying about their job opportunity that they just got with Amazon or Google, or I can see somebody who cried because their
You
best
have to
friend.
be a bit wary of where you open the app too, right? Because you never know who's around you, and then you come up with an inappropriate TikTok and you're like, oh no.
I would say that, yeah, I understand what you're saying, but I would say with TikTok, there hasn't really been much like super inappropriate things. It's really just the vulnerability and like the emotional roller coasters that people are like going on. And it's so addicting to like see. It really is.
I think it's like I would disagree, but like with like the inappropriateness, because like TikTok, right? It has algorithms to kind of gauge what TikToks or what videos that you like specifically, which ones that you like, which ones that you actually stay on for. And so like probably Taylor, you don't like watch any inappropriate ones. That's why it doesn't come up to you. But like sometimes for the For You page would show like inappropriate TikToks if you like manage to like some of those. The magical realm of TikTok and the alternate universe as known as TikTok is a great, you know, like social media, you know, like platform that obviously Taylor has been using quite a lot. Can you tell us a bit more about how you use different social media platforms for different, you know, purposes, and what type of, you know, like um gains do you get from each different one respectively, and also like how do you utilize each one to its full effect?
Right. So TikTok and Pinterest, I would definitely have to say, is all about brand awareness. You're definitely not going to get as much conversions as something like Instagram, where there's the shop feature now. People just know you and follow you for Instagram. It doesn't have like a For You page, so to speak. Like their finding explore tab is like nothing like TikTok. And so we use that for our advantage when really like retargeting per se, and getting more users that are quote unquote super fans that love everything that you're doing. They in line with the mission so much. And then like I said, the other platforms are mainly brand awareness, getting the word out there. And yeah.
So would you say that there's different types of audiences in each app? Like, do you have like an age range, or like, did that question make sense? Like,
Yeah.
how would
Yeah,
you like, yeah, how do you think it varies from app to app?
So TikTok is definitely a younger demographic. I would say Instagram is more of like the 16 through 26-year-olds. And then Facebook, of course, is like the older demographic. And so we utilize those different advantages because, for example, something might not resonate on TikTok than it would on Facebook. Like, what is this post? You know, like being a lot more engaging and entertaining on TikTok versus Facebook, where it's like more informative, or especially LinkedIn, like two totally different platforms. LinkedIn is like very informative, a little bit more professional. It's not as sarcastic as something, let's say, Twitter, where there's a whole bunch of drama, you're retweeting stuff. Shout out Morning Brew, who like is the king of sarcasm on there. And so that we kind of use it in different segments to target smaller niches within our audience.
Yeah, I think that's really smart. Louise, would you agree with that as well? Like, have you seen the same pattern, and like, have you experienced the same things too, in terms of like different social media platforms?
A lot of our social media hasn't actually launched yet. I think the only one I'm actually qualified to talk about is probably LinkedIn, because that's the one that I've only just really started to tap into. And I would say with that one, it's a completely different form of social media. And I would argue it's such a valuable form because everyone on there is on there to network. They're there for professionalism. And like when people are at the top of their game, they're still on there because a lot of people get there through LinkedIn and they get these jobs through LinkedIn. And so they're there to help you and like help you come up and like help pull you and your organization up. And then there are equally people who like, it's just such a useful platform because the algorithm really favors people who are in, as well as like similar industries, as well as completely different. And then there's so many opportunities for collaboration that come in through there. Like I get hundreds of messages just from people each day, and it's different, I guess, to social media platforms as opposed to being fans, because it's more people networking, I guess. They'll literally send over like a partnership pitch in a DM, and you're just kind of like, oh, hi, how are you? Nice to meet you. And so like, I think for business development, it's such a useful platform, but I would say, I don't know, it is social media, but it's so different. I think it's really difficult to define like how, because it's definitely, I would say, an older audience, because a lot of students don't know really LinkedIn. They won't know to get on it. And I think it takes until people graduate a lot of the time, like with few exceptions, to actually get on LinkedIn, actually start looking at how to write a CV and having that sort of awareness about their career. And they often realize, I think, a little bit too late, because uni and like college, which in the UK is like the step before uni, is like such a crucial time to be doing all of those things and to be learning and to be networking and creating like opportunities. Like I've had job offers through LinkedIn, I've picked up marketing contracts through LinkedIn, even before Leg Up. Like I used it as like my main point of sourcing income. So yeah.
No, I 100% agree with that, because the way I got hooked into like LinkedIn was basically my friend was like, you need to get on this. And I was like, what is LinkedIn? And it was like end of second year. So I was quite late on it too. And then once I got on it, I realized I was like you can actually reach out to people and it's not weird, you know, and if it's a professional network, like everyone wants to bring out the best in you. And I think for like, I don't use TikTok yet, but I will get into that too, because it seems like, you know, you guys are really hyping it up. But yeah, no, LinkedIn, I definitely agree with that. And like, to be honest, this call wouldn't have even been possible if we had not all networked over LinkedIn and TikTok and all of that. So social media is doing good stuff. But Shannon, did you have any more questions, or
Yeah,
should
so I
we
was thinking
wrap up?
about like how, honestly, every single social media platform can be capitalized because we are living in like late capitalism. And so like every single app out there can be a tool for you to network, or like a tool for you to do whatever that you want. It's what you perceive it to be, and hence like what you use it to be. And so like obviously, as you can see right now, like Instagram has its shopping function, and it's kind of like a bit weird to me to see how like commodified each like social media app is. And it's crazy to me to see how fast these apps are evolving. And obviously, like the types and natures of social media accounts vary so much. And that's why I feel like Tap Into It is so special in its sense, because it offers financial education that really isn't found like in everyday like life, or just in school, even like state school or international school or university. Like if you take like finance, they don't teach you that really. They teach you corporate finance rather than personal finance. So I feel like the opportunity to utilize social media accounts to like to your own you know your to what you want is very important. And that's why I was like thinking, I follow quite a lot of like financial TikTok accounts, as well as like internship TikTok accounts. It's quite interesting, Louise, like because there are some like TikTok influencers who teach you how to build the best CV, or like build the best LinkedIn profile, or like what to look out for when applying for these specific firms. So I was wondering, whether there'd be a possibility for Leg Up to also look into this.
Definitely. I mean, I had someone, this is very random. I had someone called Rob Canchilla reach out to me on LinkedIn and say, does Leg Up have TikTok? And he was like, I'm a TikToker. And like, I'm personally, I need to get into social media. Like I'm fully aware of it. But like, I find that so crazy. And he was talking to me about like his journey on TikTok and how he's built up a following. And like, because it's kind of similar, like careers based stuff, he was like, let me know when you get started, like we can do collaborations. And I was like, oh my gosh, thank you. Like, and it was kind of like the flip side for him, because he was just getting onto like he does like a lot of like, I looked on his account, he does a lot of like LinkedIn reviews and stuff, and he was like yeah, like I'm really like enjoying the power of LinkedIn, with his main base sort of being on TikTok. And I just found it really interesting, because it kind of, I didn't particularly realize, like I think my TikTok view page doesn't have like that much educational stuff on it, because I hadn't actually realized the reach that it has, and like the value it has for so many businesses. Like yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah, it's honestly like every single social media app is like how you make it. It's like if you want it to be a networking app, great. If you want it to be like a shopping, like a business account, great. You could do that. There's so many endless possibilities. So yeah, I'd be very much looking forward to Leg Up Network's potential like TikTok page. I guess like one of my last questions for you both is that like both of you are doing something, like you're creating a business venture that has a certain, like social social impact aspect to it. For Taylor's tap into it like business, it's to the social impact is very visible. It's like for people to gain that sense of like financial literacy and independence. And also for Louise, right, the leg up network has also a very like apparent social impact aspect to it, which is to help disadvantaged students find like better their employment abilities, and also to find like internships. So I'm guessing my question is, you know how do you balance between the profit making side, the revenue streams, that versus the social impact that you're trying to make? Because obviously sometimes they don't really go hand in hand. But in most times they do, right? Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But like, how do you try to balance the two of like the revenue side and also the social impact side when you're making strategic business decisions?
I can go first on this one. So, social media, we produce so much content that is free. There's no reason why you should not be able to learn. We post currently 2 blogs every single week, blog posts on Sunday and Wednesday as well too. That's a free resource for people to use. And the way that's monetized is by Google AdSense, along with getting sponsors. We host free workshops as well too. And again, the way that we create money from that, or source of revenue, is through getting sponsors, affiliate links, that kind of thing. There's also paid programs and ebooks that are more categorized, and that social media may be very unorganized for some people, and that in order to look at a budgeting app, you would have to, or budgeting posts in general, you may have to scroll, and there's no sense right now in social media that there's a really fine way that you can categorize your post as of just yet. And so that's for those who like the organization, want the very, very efficient process, and there you go.
Amazing. What about you, Louise?
So I think both our organizations have this in common, in that our social impact, I think when people say social impact, a lot of people might go, oh, like this business donates 10% to charity each month and that's the extent of it. Whereas with ours are actually centered around and built upon social impact and creating a change. So for Taylor, that's financial literacy. For us, that's access. And I think that we're definitely like, the social impact is kind of just built into the business models in that sense, because they go far beyond the norm of what is impact, like what's kind of expected from businesses. And then I guess for us, like building like the compromise between social impact and monetization and building a sustainable business model, it kind of, because we've built our whole business around like socially impacting and creating more access, it goes hand in hand because of like the model that we've designed. So for example, like we're working directly to businesses, as opposed, so like the students kind of come through that avenue, and then the businesses sort of cover their costs and we get a profit from that. And we also use a lot of those profits to just expand and create that access. So I guess like people can argue, oh, you're profiting off this. Well, yes, but if we don't, then we stay as kind of almost like a charity which only has so much reach and depends on donors, which I think massively limits the amount of access you can ultimately create. Like if you think about, you can't name the amount of charities in the UK because there are so many. And I love charity, but I do think that sometimes, like with this particular case, you do need to be able to build something to be able to increase the access and have the impact that you want to have. And so for us, that means a business model. And it's stuff like, okay, so for example, we're launching a bursary in January, which helps, like, for example, if someone gets an internship from an underprivileged background, but they can't afford, because there's so many internships are unpaid, they can't afford transport costs, and that would prohibit them from taking the internship, then that's what we cover. And so, yes, it's like we're a business, but we're only able to do stuff like that because we are a business. So yeah.
That makes sense. Wait, so just adding on to that, like you said, transport costs. But what about like, let's say if somebody had to like stay in London, obviously costs are very expensive. Like, would you guys be covering big amounts of money like that or no?
So living costs, that's separate to an internship. It's only internship related costs. So for example, with COVID at the moment, everything's online, but access to tech to be able to take part in an internship that's remote is still like a hurdle. So it's only stuff that's directly related to our business, because otherwise it's just we have to decide on what we're making an impact on. And for us, that's access to internships and professional opportunities. So that's kind of where our focus is.
Yeah, you mentioned like just before we did this meeting and stuff that like you guys were thinking of supplying laptops and all of that too, right?
Yeah, that's like as part of the bursary.
Yeah, that's amazing. Like it really seems like you guys
Yeah.
great and it's going really well. So, Shannon, if you don't have any more questions, we can just wrap up. Thank you so much for joining us and taking your time out of your weekend to do this. And like, I know like Taylor, especially you're in America and different time zones and everything. And like Louise, thank you so much for taking your time out of your busy schedule to do this with us. And we've loved having you here. And it was so nice getting to know about your ventures and just you guys in general as well. But yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was really interesting.
Agreed. It's so wonderful hearing like Louise starting up as just an idea like that and kind of an initiative. That's the same exact way in which I started up. And then like seeing the powerful impact that you have and like, yeah, this is actually like people want this and you're making a positive social impact, which is absolutely amazing.